go. We should be getting Hannah from GlowDay on as well. There we go. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I feel very close to that camera.
I know. I've been trying to work out the best positioning for it. So yeah, no, it's all good. How are you?
Good. The sun is shining, so at least that is one positive. My children are not here. I've locked the doors, so
absolutely. I've just evicted my whole family, so this is all good. It's all good.
We should
And
not
this is
get
the fringe you've cut by yourself.
This is my COVID fringe. So this is my Botox has worn off so much. I just took the nail scissors to it.
Well, you're a braver woman than me, I have to say. My goodness.
My hairdresser was just like, I think we need to have words when this is over.
Oh, fair play. At least you gave it a go. Absolutely.
I gave it a go. And now you can't see my wrinkles, so.
Win-win.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to do this Insta Live.
No, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, I think it was just really, I know that we have both been having a lot of conversations with clinic owners and business entrepreneurs in the last week or two, just trying to sort of give them counsel on how they can not only survive this difficult period, but sort of use the time effectively to strengthen their business and actually give them the best chance of bouncing back after it's all over.
Yeah, exactly. No, we've been chatting to quite a few practitioners over the last couple of weeks, and there seems to be just a groundswell at the moment of really positive thinking about how this time is actually a gift, and it gives them the time that they can now refresh some of the things that they do, refocus on what's important, and you know, get themselves into the best possible position when we're out of lockdown. So I think part of it is a mindset thing where you see it as an opportunity rather than something that's been imposed on you. So I think
absolutely, and so many of them struggle. I mean, you know, we all struggle, you know, even as a business owner myself, you know, you're spending so much time doing your day-to-day job and working in your business that you don't have a lot of time to work on the business and really kind of clear the decks and think about it.
Exactly. Yeah, have that thinking time, and that almost just not doing that day-to-day allows you to step back and refresh your view on the directions that you want to take and what things are critical and perhaps what things aren't so critical. Whereas when you're knees deep in it, you can't really have that holistic view often.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things that you and I can maybe talk about today is sort of how the clinics and business owners and brands generally right now can maintain their engagement with their customers and with their community, but in a way that is obviously sensitive to, you know, the situation that we're all in, and not overly commercial. But you know, it's a double-edged sword at the moment. I think people are recognizing that businesses have got to do something to survive right now, but you know, there's a balance to be struck in how they go about that and the authenticity of their communications.
And I think that's really it, isn't it? It's being really authentic, but it's being sensitive, but also salient. And I think those people who I'm seeing on Instagram and on social media who are doing it really well are those who aren't necessarily peddling their wares.
No.
But they're being really informative, really helpful, really positive, and showing themselves. And I think there seems to be almost a sea change on Instagram, where previously it was all before and after, before and after, before and after, before and after. Yeah. And now we're actually seeing the people behind the needle. So we're seeing those injectors. I'm seeing more Instagram stories where people are, you know, sharing their day-to-day. And effectively, we're in an industry where we buy people, and it's that's really critical and important. You form that relationship with your injector, with your therapist, and they are the ones that you want to then support. So
absolutely,
that's been a really positive shift in what I'm seeing on social media versus pre-COVID, where it was literally just a factory of, these are our lips, these are the treatments we do, these are the offers. Whereas now you see more of the people behind those treatments, which is, I think, only a good thing.
Absolutely. And it's about, as you say, it's buying into people, and everybody's, I think, feeling a lot more sort of connected right now.
Yeah.
And feeling empowered maybe to have slightly more personal type of conversations. you know, with people that necessarily wouldn't have done that before. So I think that's a really nice thing that I'm seeing as well.
And I think part of that's a confidence thing, you know, to put yourself out there and to be authentic and to be seen often plays on people's insecurities, whereas
definitely
everybody that I watch on stories, so Claire Lavery is one, I just love her. Like yesterday, it was her birthday and her mum and dad were on her driveway singing her happy birthday. And it's like, oh no, you know, that little nugget of information that I now know about her does nothing but make me feel more positively towards her. So things like that I think are really, really important and a real
definitely
out of this.
So is that shift away from sort of products and services to people, personalities, values, and
exactly,
you know,
exactly.
Yeah. And taking the chance, I think, as well, you know, while people are looking for information and guidance, is to establish yourself as an authority in your field as well. So, you know, a couple of the clients that we work with over the last few weeks, we've been managing their comms, talking about the fact that, you know, okay, loads of their surgeons are going back into the NHS to help support during this time. You know, they're not talking about the fact that their clinics are essentially closed, that their cash flow has gone through the floor. They're talking about the fact that, you know, as a business, you know, their key staff are doing the important thing right now, going back into the NHS and helping on the front line, or, you know, anything like that. I think is, I've seen clinics saying that they, you know, they're giving away their gloves and, you know,
masks and all their sterile equipment. No, exactly. And I think what's really apparent is that historically this industry within the medical arena is pretty frowned upon. And I think those people going back into the NHS showing that actually first and foremost they are there to provide patient care. About anything else, they are trained as doctors, dentists, nurses, and that's ultimately what they do. And when the call is there, they'll rise to it. So I think it's hopefully in the long term it'll level the playing field and remove some of that stigma and negative judgment almost from traditional medical fields.
Definitely
Raise the profile of aesthetics.
Yeah. And I think some of the stuff that you and I've been talking about in the last week or so is about how practitioners can kind of pivot to that more kind of positive and proactive mindset. So, you know, not only putting in place things in their business to try and keep the business going, like online consults and things like that, but actually how can they effectively use that downtime to upskill themselves, to prepare themselves, to you know, get the business marketing and the education up to a standard that can support them better once it's all over.
Yeah, and so each week we invite practitioners to be part of our practitioner profile series. So, and part of that is us asking them, what is it that you're doing? How are you coping? How are you managing? How are you feeling? And overwhelmingly, what comes back from them is, I'm using this time. I'm doing my e-consults. I'm distance selling my skincare to try to gain some cash flow. I'm enrolling on all kinds of e-learning. Typically, it seems to be treatment-related e-learning, and I think they could probably broaden that to marketing, how they can keep their finances in good order. I think they focus in quite heavily on the treatments, and I think they could probably broaden that to more business type e-learning, which I think would probably benefit them in the long term. So yeah, they're just massively proactive, massively positive, and you can't help but be enthused by what their views are.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, as an industry to work in, like, we feel really honoured and privileged to be able to work and to feed off that positivity.
Definitely. And I think, like you say, it's that showing by example of what you can do and what you're all about, really. And I think a couple of the conversations I've had in the last week were practitioners who were really keen to kind of use this time effectively to get their marketing plans and their kind of content up and running in a better way. But they were a little bit kind of overwhelmed. They didn't know where to start with it all. So what have you been saying to some of your clinics about how to get going and all of that?
So I think we're pretty new to this ourselves. So in terms of putting together a social media strategy, we're in it. That's what we're doing. And I think the COVID pandemic made us pivot really quickly. So prior to COVID, we were all about onboarding clinics, come and join us, you know, we're going to be there for you, we're going to get your clinics buzzing. Whereas very quickly it became apparent that that message was inappropriate and completely unhelpful. So we repurposed all of our writers and all of our content to be more practitioner focused. How can we help you through this with financial help, accessing government schemes, everything from insurance through to mindfulness.
Yeah.
So we very quickly had to reconfigure all of our social media, and we found a tool called Trello, which you may or may not know.
Oh, I
absolutely. Honestly, it's revolutionary in terms of how quickly it allows you to plan out a social media calendar. So you can just add your little cards, you plan out your 2 weeks of social posts, and rather than it taking 3 hours every day for you to find the image, put the quote, it does that all. You can just spend one day doing it, and then you've got all of those posts ready. So things like using Trello to organize your social media. Think about what it is you want to say. How do you want to say it? What imagery really reflects your brand? So using websites like Pexels and Upsplash, they are the ones that have free photography for you. It's really high quality. If you want like skincare flat lays, if you want backgrounds, if you want people doing like really fun things, all of these images are there for you. You don't have to pay a penny for them.
Well, also we did an Insta Live literally last week with a brand photographer called Hannah Russel, who I've worked with a lot. And I think your point about showing personality, of course, there are free photography images that you can use to kind of augment your social media, but the more you can do to make it specific, personal, and showing you, I mean, I remember a couple of times I've done social media reviews for clients, and they've been stunned to find out that the most liked and most engaging pictures are of them,
of themselves.
Exactly. They don't want to be in front of the camera, but it really is, like you say, people by people.
Yeah, and I think getting yourself out of that comfort zone where you go, this is your business. Like, I hate, anyone who knows me knows I hate being in front of the camera. So for me, this morning I was saying to my husband, like, I just, you know, this isn't what I want to be doing with my time. I'd rather be on Instagram scrolling, but this is my business. So if I'm not putting myself out there, putting myself forward, then my business will struggle. So it's the same for small businesses. You have to make yourself really visible. You have to make, and you have to be true to yourself. So it's not like you adopt a persona that's somebody else. People like you for you. So just go along with that and put yourself out there. But I agree. I think having that range of posts on your grid, in your stories that are well branded, a mixture of you, a mixture of nicely shot photography. Just people want pretty things. People want to see beautiful things. People want that bit of escapism when they're looking through Instagram. So, you know,
and like you say, it is shop front still. It is still about communicating in a visual way who you are, and you know how you conduct yourself and how you conduct your business. So, but we were also saying this morning, weren't we, about the fact that you know, it's that balance between commercial and relationship building and nurturing. And I mean, previously, like you say, everyone's having to pivot right now. Nobody has ever experienced this situation, and they're all trying to work out what's the best strategy of keeping themselves afloat and visible, but not looking like they're taking advantage or being tone deaf to a very sensitive situation. But I think it was also that fact of trying to make sure that you give yourself that space and time to plan ahead, and that it's a blended approach of personality versus commercial and educational as well. I think education is one.
And I think also it's probably a good time to just go through your feed and see, of the posts that you've posted, which are those that are engaging your audience most, because they are the ones that you need to be replicating and repurposing. Like, I know we've looked through ours, our digital designer, he's gone off for a couple of weeks on furlough. So I'm now repurposing stuff, and actually a lot of the stuff is there. It's amazing. It's really good. And prior to this, it would have just been something that we'd have just put to one side and we'd redesign on top of, and almost reinvent the wheel constantly. And I think what this has shown us is that we've got a bank of resources that we can draw on, and we probably should be drawing on them rather than reinventing
Definitely.
making work for ourselves. And it's probably similar to lots of practitioners out there who have got reams of content, you know, on their phones,
Yeah.
websites that they have. They are the things that they need to be sharing, so that I think at the minute it's about positioning yourself in the correct way rather than trying to gain new clients. You want to re-engage with your existing clients. You've got, you know, when I think of my practitioner, I cannot wait to see her. So it's making sure that when her clinic doors are open, I can get myself seen. And I think most existing clients are the same, whether it's with your nail tech, your waxer, whoever it's with. You want to see them.
Open all of them.
So I think, yeah, it's massively about making sure that you are, as a business, appealing to your existing clients rather than chasing new currently.
That is all that, I mean, that is the rule of thumb, even when we're not in COVID.
True.
I mean, true. You know, you see all the time practitioners and clinics trying to sort of tailor their marketing to, you know, like fishing, like almost trying to those people that are browsing and jumping from clinic to clinic, and, you know, all of that kind of stuff, and not realizing that they're already sitting on that treasure trove of existing loyal customers who've already made that important first step of getting in the clinic. You know, getting people through that transition process takes months. And, you know, a couple that I've been speaking to this week, they've suddenly gone, oh yeah, I haven't sent out a patient newsletter since Christmas. And it's like, okay, so, you know, fire up your patient database, look,
get yourself on MailChimp, you know, design that newsletter. And I think use this time to figure out what apps are going to work for you, what bits of software can help your business in the long term, because I pretty much dictate when I go and have my Botox. Whereas if someone sent me a message every 10 weeks to say, 10 weeks ago you had your Botox, you might want to think about booking an appointment, they are the behaviours of clinics that will really capitalise on retention and getting extra value out of their clients.
Absolutely. And especially at this point in time where people, you know, the lockdown's starting to bite now, and, you know, people are starting to almost fantasize about what they're going to do.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to live my best life, Julia. I'm going to be out there, Botox to the max.
I want to go out to a restaurant. I really miss going to food. That's going to be my...
I hate cooking. I hate it. And so this couldn't be worse for me.
But like you say, you know, the more touch points you can have with an existing customer database, you know, through an engaging newsletter, sharing what you're doing to keep sane and healthy and physically fit, mentally well, nutrition. It doesn't always have to be about beauty, skin treatments. It's kind of, as you say, that more kind of holistic picture of, we're all in this together. This is what I'm doing, or this is how I'm supporting my local community, my local businesses. You know, that.
And I think there's almost a fine line between it being genuine and authentic versus preach.
Yeah.
If you want to do things the right way, these are the way. So I think it's get that balance is probably quite tricky. But I think if you're doing it in an authentic way and saying, you know, stuffing my face with 10 custard creams and a cup of tea every night is how I'm getting through this, then that's just as valid as someone who's on a kale smoothie every morning.
Definitely. One of the other things that they've been talking about as well is about sort of utilizing blogs a little bit more and realizing, okay, this is their opportunity to educate, this is their opportunity to provide a bit more kind of in-depth information, and how that then feeds into, okay, now I've got something to put in my newsletter, or now I've got something to help my Google rankings, you know, pop up a bit easier, like that. So
no, and that's exactly what we found. So how we're tailoring our content currently is we will write a piece of content, that content then will feed into our social media strategy. We will ensure that in terms of Google searchability, we're writing the content so that Google will notice us as well as being really relevant to customers. So it's having that wider view of not reacting to things, but being more proactive and planned about your messaging.
Definitely. And I think obviously we've talked a lot about kind of social media and marketing type strategies that people can kind of implement more consistently and plan for right now. But there are obviously commercial things that are helping right now. You've mentioned obviously about online consultations. You've mentioned people pivoting much more to online skincare retailing, either directly or through third-party services. Are there other things they're doing?
Well, so I know that like Illumia, for example, are now doing distance selling, and they've slightly changed their how you access that as a practitioner. So that might be worth looking into if you haven't got a skincare range currently. I know Zoe Health are doing similar. I know Abaji are doing similar. So if you want to get your skin sorted, now's probably the best time. People are opening wait lists. So that's a new thing that I've seen this week, where people are open wait lists, and so that they can keep in contact with those customers who are desperate for their appointments. E-consultations, again, it's another change within the industry. Prior to this, e-consultations were quite frowned upon. And I wonder whether post-COVID, we will continue with e-consultations, because it's such an easy way in the evenings of having that, I think I need this, but do I need this? Can you just advise me so then I book the correct treatment?
Why do you think they were frowned upon?
I don't know. I was speaking to Claire at Ethra Aesthetics, and she was saying, she's a GP, and she said, even in the GP sphere, they were frowned upon until recently, whereas now there seems to be wide-scale adoption of e-consultations. And I'm not sure whether it's an insurance thing or an informed consent thing, but I think as busy people who generally aren't available 9 to 5, having an evening e-consult to then book in for treatment the following day or week seems like a, you know, from a consumer perspective, seems like a good change.
Yeah, I think, like you say, we're getting used to a whole different way of doing things, and you know, a more flexible way of doing things. So I think that's going to definitely stick around for a bit more.
Yeah, and I wonder it's whether these changes are maintained when we're all back to normal, whatever that means, or whether we just go back to our traditional ways of working. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So there's e-consults, skincare, wait lists. They are the 3 main ones that seem to have spread like wildfire across Instagram. I think the only thing you need to be wary of is doing too much of the same thing. I think you need to pepper your promotions about, these are my skincare offers, this is my e-consult, with that more authentic type of content about you, what you're up to, you know. And
yeah, it should be about 5% versus 25%.
Exactly, yeah. It's just getting that ratio right so that you're not feeling like you're being pressure sold too constantly.
Definitely. And I mean, waitlisting is a whole marketing strategy in of itself that can be right back into your social, into your newsletters, into your blogs, you know, about, you know, whether you are completely now booked out for the next months or whether you've only got a few spaces left. That whole kind of, you don't want to go too far down the path of urgency marketing, but it's a way of, you know, it's a story, it's something to say, you know, but can keep.
And I think if that appointment comes with a deposit, for example, then that might help maintain your cash flow. I know people have been selling gift vouchers and e-gift vouchers.
Yeah, definitely.
As a treat to yourself when this is all over, you can get your face all sorted. But I think anything, if you're in a position where you're in a salaried job and you know that there are people who are self-employed and your practitioner who's a sole practitioner and maybe hasn't got work in the NHS, if you want their doors to be open the other side of this, then if you are in the fortunate position that you are salaried and you do want to see them at the end of this, then you need to make sure that you're putting your money where your mouth is.
That's absolutely what's going on. I mean, one of my my coaches, actually, one of my business coaches that I work with, she literally was getting paid by her clients in advance just before the lockdown, and she made sure she bought 3 haircuts from her local hairdresser because she wanted them to be able to be open when this is all over. So it's really that kind of pay it forward mentality, isn't it?
Yeah, and actually it feels quite altruistic, but it's, you know, it's not really. It's pretty selfish, because, you know, once you've built up that rapport with your hairdresser and your injector, you want to make sure that you don't have to look elsewhere for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been keeping an eye as we've been going on about people asking any questions. I wasn't sure if anybody had any questions that they wanted us to cover, or whether we've kind of covered most of it. So I'm just going to open it up for questions. And while I look for that, was there any other bits from GlowDay that you wanted to, because you were saying that you've changed your strategy quite significantly?
Yeah, so our plan is still the same. We're basically going to be, and often people dislike me saying this, but it's in layman's terms, we're going to be the Airbnb for Botox and fillers. So basically you can come onto our website, you can find only medically qualified aesthetic practitioners. So we only allow doctors, dentists and nurses. So if you're a consumer, you can come on and search for people in your area, you can read their reviews, see their before and after, and make a really confident, informed choice about who you're going to have in your face. And the plan is still there. We're going to launch that. So we are ready to go. We're raring to go. And everything is in place so that as soon as this is lifted, we can press the button and we can launch. As I say, our messaging cannot now be about, come and join us, come and join us, come and join us. It needs to be about, right, this is our community. We want to be part of this aesthetics community. So how do we protect and maintain and future-proof the people within this community?
Yeah.
So that's effectively, if you go on our website now, our blog, we've got a specific section which is COVID-19, and in there you'll find blogs about the financial help that's available from the government, like a whole range of topics, including all of the weekly practitioner spotlight. So if anyone wants to be featured on a practitioner spotlight, drop us an email and we can get in touch with you. But yeah, it's about basically raising the profile of the whole industry, making sure that people are only choosing medically qualified practitioners, and that's about it.
Yeah, and about supporting. It's all about that business to business support right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think just making sure that you're in it for the right reasons and that you're there to help and support rather than capitalize on other people's misfortune, which is not what anybody wants.
That's not what anyone's about. No, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think that's been a wonderful discussion, and thank you so much for your time and for joining me. And obviously, we'll put this up on IGTV, but obviously if anybody has any questions for either Hannah or myself, do just send us a message, and I'll make sure I tag everybody in there. And thank you so much.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Julia.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.